What if I told you there are objects in this world so extraordinary, so inexplicable, that even the brightest minds of our time can't fully unravel their secrets? Hidden in the shadows of history, sacred relics exist, artifacts wrapped in mystery, radiating power, and defying every logical explanation we throw at them. Think of the Ark of the Covenant, said to house the very presence of a divine force, capable of leveling mountains and striking down armies, or the Holy Grail, a cup rumored to grant eternal life, pursued by kings and knights for centuries. These aren't just relics, they're enigmas that challenge our understanding of the past, whispering stories of lost civilizations, forgotten technologies, and forces beyond our comprehension. For as long as humans have walked the earth, we've been drawn to the unknown, to objects that seem to hold a piece of something greater than ourselves. Some of these relics are tied to miracles, others to curses, but all share one thing in common: they refuse to fit neatly into the pages of history. How is it possible that an ancient stone tablet can predict celestial events with pinpoint accuracy? Why does a centuries-old blade never lose its edge despite the passage of time? These questions haunt archaeologists, historians, and treasure hunters alike because every answer only leads to deeper mysteries. Today, we're embarking on a journey through time, uncovering 25 of the most baffling sacred relics ever discovered. From objects believed to be touched by the gods to artifacts that science simply can't explain, each one tells a story that blurs the line between myth and reality. Some may have been lost to history, while others might still be hidden, waiting to be found. So settle in, because by the end of this, you'll question everything you thought you knew about the past. The truth, it's far stranger than fiction. Of all the sacred relics lost to history, none captures the imagination quite like the Ark of the Covenant. Described in the Bible as a gold-covered chest crafted by divine instruction, it wasn't just a container, it was said to be a conduit of God's power, capable of parting rivers, toppling walls, and even striking down those who dared to touch it without reverence. According to Scripture, inside rested the original stone tablets inscribed with the Ten Commandments, a jar of manna from the Israelites' desert wanderings, and Aaron's staff, objects that symbolized covenant, survival, and divine authority. But its most chilling feature, the mercy seat, where God's presence was believed to dwell between two golden cherubim. Ancient texts describe how priests would enter the tabernacle with ropes tied around their ankles because if they displeased the divine, they could be struck dead on the spot, and their bodies needed to be dragged out safely. For centuries, the Ark's movements were meticulously documented. It led battles, stood at the heart of Solomon's temple, and then vanished. Around 600 years before the Common Era, when Babylon sacked Jerusalem, historical records go silent. Some believe it was hidden beneath the Temple Mount, sealed in a secret chamber by the prophet Jeremiah. Others argue it was smuggled to Ethiopia, where monks in Axum claim to guard it to this day. Then there's the theory that it was taken to Europe by the Knights Templar, hidden in plain sight as medieval churches rose. Modern expeditions have probed everything from underground tunnels in Israel to remote island caves, but no physical evidence has ever surfaced. What makes the Ark's disappearance so tantalizing is the sheer weight of its legacy. Jewish tradition holds that it will reappear only when the Messiah comes. For Christians, it's a symbol of Christ's fulfillment of the Old Covenant, and for archaeologists, it's the ultimate cold case, an artifact so potent, its absence feels like a question mark burned into history. Whether divine relic or lost masterpiece of ancient craftsmanship, one thing's certain: if the Ark still exists, it holds secrets we've barely begun to fathom. The legends surrounding the Ark's power read like something torn from the pages of a cosmic thriller. Ancient texts describe it as more than a sacred box. It was a weapon, a force of nature, and a divine judge all rolled into one. When the Israelites carried it into battle, entire armies reportedly crumbled before them. The Book of Joshua tells how the Jordan River split apart the moment the priests bearing the ark stepped into its waters, mirroring the miracle of the Red Sea. But its most chilling accounts come from the story of Uzzah, a man who reached out to steady the ark as it wobbled on a cart, only to be struck dead on the spot for his irreverence. Scholars still debate whether these events were literal divine interventions or symbolic narratives, but one thing's clear: the ark's reputation as an object of terrifying power persists across millennia. Modern theorists have tried to rationalize these stories through science. Some suggest the ark may have housed an ancient energy source, like an early form of capacitor, given its gold construction and precise design specifications. Others point to the possibility of radioactive materials like the uranium-rich stones found in the Sinai Peninsula being stored inside, explaining both its lethal effects and the strict handling protocols. Even the description of the Mercy Seat, emitting a mysterious glow, aligns oddly well with modern plasma phenomena. But for every scientific angle, there's a counterargument rooted in faith. Perhaps the ark's true power wasn't technological at all, but a manifestation of something beyond human understanding. This duality between the physical and the metaphysical has cemented the ark's place in pop culture. From Indiana Jones dodging booby traps to blockbuster films portraying it as a weapon of mass destruction, our fascination with the ark taps into a deeper question: what if the divine and the technological aren't mutually exclusive? Ancient astronaut theorists propose it might have been an alien artifact, while theologians see it as proof of a hands-on deity. The ark's legacy thrives in this ambiguity, a Rorschach test for how we interpret the unexplained. Whether viewed as a relic of lost science or a vessel of pure mysticism, its stories continue to challenge the boundaries between history and legend. No relic has inspired more quests, more legends, or more speculation than the Holy Grail. Unlike the Ark of the Covenant with its biblical origins, the Grail's story is woven through medieval romance, a golden cup said to have caught the blood of Christ at the crucifixion, later smuggled to Britain by Joseph of Arimathea. But here's where the mystery deepens. The earliest Grail stories didn't describe a Christian relic at all. In 12th century poems, it was a shimmering dish or stone, radiating abundance and healing, a pagan symbol repurposed by storytellers. Only later did it morph into the sacred chalice we recognize today, a transformation that hints at how legends evolve, absorbing layers of meaning like a sponge. Enter King Arthur's knights. The Grail became the ultimate test of purity, a quest reserved for the worthiest like Galahad, the flawless knight who alone could gaze upon its radiance without being blinded. The tales spun around it were never just about finding an object, they were about transformation. Fail the test and forests would wither, lands would starve. Succeed and the Grail's power would restore kingdoms. This idea that the Grail wasn't merely hidden but waiting to be earned turned it into a metaphor for divine grace, something no amount of treasure maps could lead you to. Then there are the Knights Templar, the warrior monks accused of guarding the Grail's secret. When the order was crushed in the 14th century, rumors surged that they'd smuggled it from Jerusalem to Scotland, or perhaps to the Pyrenees, where shadowy caves still bear Templar markings. Modern researchers have chased these leads to dead ends, but the theories keep multiplying. Could the Grail have been buried beneath Rosslyn Chapel, its carvings a coded map? Or was it hidden in plain sight, not a cup at all, but the bloodline of Christ, as conspiracy theories suggest? Science hasn't stayed silent either. In Valencia, a glass agate chalice dated to the 1st century is venerated as the true Grail, though scholars debate its provenance. Others argue the Grail was never physical, that it symbolized the quest for enlightenment, a mirror reflecting the seeker's own heart. Yet for all the interpretations, one thread stays constant. The Grail represents something just out of reach, a promise that keeps us searching. Whether artifact or allegory, its power lies in the question it asks not, where is it, but what would you sacrifice to find it? the hunt for the Holy Grail has led treasure seekers to some of the most enigmatic sites across Europe, each with its own tantalizing clues and dead ends. Glastonbury Tor in England stands high on that list, a windswept hill steeped in Arthurian legend. Local lore claims Joseph of Arimathea planted his staff here, which miraculously sprouted into the Glastonbury thorn, a tree that blooms twice a year. Beneath the tor, some believe lies a hidden chamber guarding the Grail, linked to Avalon, the mythical island where Arthur was taken to heal. Archaeologists have probed the area for centuries, but the waterlogged soil and labyrinthine tunnels have kept their secrets. What makes Glastonbury so compelling isn't just the legend. It's the way the landscape itself seems to whisper of older mysteries, from pre-Christian springs revered as portals to the underworld to medieval monks who allegedly forged Grail-themed artifacts to attract pilgrims. Then there's Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, its stone walls carved with symbols that have fueled speculation for generations. The chapel's apprentice pillar, wrapped in intricate vines, is said to conceal a hidden compartment, perhaps holding the Grail or a map to its whereabouts. The connection to the Knights Templar runs deep here. Carvings depict plants like aloe and maize, unknown in medieval Scotland, hinting at Templar voyages to the New World. Yet despite ground-penetrating radar scans and meticulous searches, no physical evidence has emerged. Skeptics argue Rosslyn's ties to the Grail were embellished by Victorian romantics, but the chapel's allure persists, a testament to how symbols can overshadow fact. Not all Grail quests have been so poetic. In the 1980s, a French farmer claimed to have found the relic in a mountain cave near Rennes-le-Château, sparking a media frenzy, until historians revealed the discovery as an elaborate hoax. Modern expeditions armed with sonar and drones have scoured the Pyrenees, chasing faded Templar symbols on cave walls. Meanwhile, in Valencia, Spain, the Santo Cáliz draws thousands yearly, though carbon dating only confirms the agate cup's age, not its divine connection. Why does the Grail myth endure? Perhaps because it's infinitely adaptable, a vessel for our deepest yearnings. To medieval knights, it symbolized spiritual purity. To conspiracy theorists, it's a coded history of bloodlines and cover-ups. The search itself becomes the story, a mirror reflecting whatever we value most: faith, power, or the thrill of the unsolved. Every generation reinvents the Grail, ensuring its legend never truly fades. Few artifacts straddle the line between faith and science as dramatically as the Shroud of Turin. This ancient linen cloth, measuring over 14 feet long, bears the ghostly imprint of a bearded man with wounds consistent with crucifixion, hands folded over the pelvis, a apparent spear wound in the side, and what appears to be bloodstains around the forehead. To believers, it's the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, a divine self-portrait left behind after the resurrection. To skeptics, it's an elaborate medieval forgery, a puzzle wrapped in centuries of devotion and debate. The shroud's modern story begins in 1357 when it surfaced in a French church, but its journey before that remains shrouded in mystery. Some trace it back to Edessa, where a cloth with the image not made by human hands was revered as early as the 6th century. Others argue it was crafted by Templars or even Leonardo da Vinci, though these theories crumble under scrutiny. What's undeniable is the eerie precision of the image. Unlike paintings, the shroud's markings aren't made with pigment. They're a faint, straw-yellow discoloration of the linen fibers themselves, as if scorched by some unknown energy. The face is hauntingly three-dimensional, with nuances modern cameras couldn't replicate until the 20th century. Then came the bombshell of 1988. Radiocarbon dating by 3 independent labs placed the shroud's origin between 1260 and 1390, squarely in the Middle Ages. For many, this was case closed, a pious hoax. But almost immediately, critics pounced on flaws in the testing. The sample came from a corner repaired after a fire, possibly contaminated by medieval cotton threads. Later studies noted the shroud's unique chemical properties, vanillin levels suggesting an age far older, and pollen grains matching plants from ancient Judea. Even the weave matches first-century Jewish burial cloths, not medieval European ones. Science keeps adding layers to the enigma. In 2015, researchers used blood pattern analysis to argue the wounds align precisely with Roman flagrum whips and crucifixion practices. The blood itself contains high levels of bilirubin, consistent with extreme trauma. Most baffling of all, no one's been able to replicate the image. Attempts using medieval techniques produce crude, sticky stains nothing like the shroud's delicate photo-negative quality. Some physicists propose a burst of ultraviolet light could have created it, though how remains a mystery. Whether divine relic or unsolved riddle, the shroud's power lies in its refusal to be categorized. Pilgrims still flock to Turin to glimpse it, while scientists dream of new tests. Perhaps its greatest lesson is how little we truly understand about the past, and how an object can defy explanation while inspiring endless wonder. The image on the Shroud of Turin isn't just mysterious, it's scientifically baffling. Unlike any known artwork, the markings aren't painted, dyed, or woven into the fabric. Instead, they're a superficial discoloration, a mere 0.02 of a millimeter deep, affecting only the topmost fibers. This isn't how pigments behave, and it's not how medieval artists worked. The image also possesses a peculiar three-dimensional quality, with shading that maps perfectly to the contours of a human body, as if projected by some unknown process. Modern attempts to recreate it using everything from acids to sunlight fall short. Even Leonardo da Vinci's alleged genius couldn't explain it, despite fringe theories suggesting his involvement. The shroud's creation defies the artistic techniques of its time, leaving researchers to propose wilder possibilities. One compelling hypothesis points to a sudden burst of radiation. In 2011, Italian scientists bombarded linen with ultraviolet lasers, producing a faint, shroud-like discoloration. The catch: the energy required would have been equivalent to 34,000 excimer lasers firing simultaneously, a feat beyond medieval technology and arguably beyond nature itself. Others speculate about corona discharge, a phenomenon where high-voltage electricity creates eerie, body-shaped imprints. But here's the rub: no known electrical process matches the shroud's intricate detail. Even if such an event occurred, how would it perfectly mirror crucifixion wounds down to the scourge marks and blood flow patterns? Then there's the blood. Forensic analysts confirm the stains contain hemoglobin and bilirubin, compounds found in traumatized bodies. The blood's position trickling from wrists, not palms, as medieval artists depicted aligns with modern understanding of Roman crucifixion methods. Stranger still, the blood predates the image. If this were a forgery, the artist would have needed knowledge of anatomy, pathology, and physics unavailable until centuries later. Recent studies using advanced spectroscopy and microscopic analysis only deepen the puzzle. The image's chemical signature suggests oxidation and dehydration of the cellulose fibers, but no identifiable pigment or binder. In 2018, researchers noted the shroud's faint dust includes pollen from plants native to Jerusalem, along with traces of limestone consistent with Judean tombs. Yet radiocarbon dating still hangs over the debate like a specter. Its contested results a reminder that even cutting-edge science struggles to pin down this relic. Perhaps the shroud's greatest enigma is its emotional impact. Pilgrims who view it often describe an overwhelming sense of connection, not just to the image but to the suffering it represents. Science can analyze the how, but the why remains elusive. Whether divine imprint, accidental marvel, or lost ancient technology, the shroud refuses to surrender its secrets, ensuring its place as one of history's most stubborn mysteries. The Spear of Destiny isn't just a weapon, it's a relic wrapped in paradox. According to the Gospel of John, a Roman soldier named Longinus thrust it into Christ's side during the crucifixion, drawing blood and water. But this humble lance transformed into something far grander in the centuries that followed, becoming a talisman of power, allegedly granting invincibility to those who possessed it. Its journey reads like a shadow history of Europe, passing through the hands of emperors, conquerors, and dictators, each convinced it held the key to their destiny. Constantine the Great reportedly carried a spear into battle, emblazoned with a cross before his legendary victory at the Milvian Bridge in 312. Was it the same spear? Medieval chroniclers claimed so, weaving a narrative of divine favor. Charlemagne, the architect of the Holy Roman Empire, supposedly wielded it through 47 victorious battles until the day he dropped it and died moments later. The message was clear: lose the spear, lose your life. By the 10th century, it was enshrined in Vienna's Hofburg Palace, known as the Holy Lance, its blade bound with ancient nails said to be from the true cross. Then came Adolf Hitler. In 1938, as Nazi troops rolled into Vienna, Hitler seized the spear within hours. His obsession wasn't random. He'd been spellbound by its legend since his youth when he first saw it displayed in a museum. The Nazi regime poured resources into occult research, convinced relics like the lance could tip the scales of war. Heinrich Himmler's SS even conducted rituals around replicas, seeking to harness its supposed power. But history took a cruel turn. When American forces recovered the spear in 1945, Hitler's reign collapsed days later. Coincidence or ironic fulfillment of the legend's warning? Science hasn't ignored the spear's mysteries. Metallurgical analysis reveals its blade dates to the 7th or 8th century, too late for Roman crucifixions. But the nail embedded within, that's older, possibly 1st century. Some scholars argue the original lance was lost and the Hofburg spear is a medieval replacement. Others suggest it's a composite, its power stemming from the nails, not the blade itself. What makes the Spear of Destiny so compelling isn't just its disputed origins, it's the human obsession with objects as vessels of fate. From emperors to dictators, each holder believed the lance could bend history to their will. Whether divine artifact or psychological symbol, its true power might lie in the grip it has on our imagination, a reminder that sometimes the legends we chase reveal more about us than about the relics themselves. The Spear of Destiny's legend isn't just about power, it's about a curse woven into the fabric of history. Those who have claimed ownership often met spectacular downfalls, as if the relic exacted a price for its gifts. Take Frederick Barbarossa, the medieval German emperor who supposedly carried the spear into battle during the Third Crusade. After decades of military triumphs, he drowned in a shallow river in Asia Minor, his invincibility shattered in an absurd twist of fate. Or consider Napoleon, who allegedly sought the spear after conquering Vienna in 1805, only to suffer catastrophic defeat at Waterloo months later. Even the Habsburg dynasty, which guarded the spear for centuries, saw their empire crumble after losing World War I, a war they arguably helped ignite. These aren't just coincidences, they're patterns etched into the spear's lore, suggesting that its power comes with a cosmic fine print. Modern conspiracy theories amplify these dark undertones. After World War II, rumors swirled that the spear hadn't been returned to Vienna at all, that the Americans secretly kept it, or that Soviet operatives smuggled it to Moscow. Some claim the CIA studied the artifact during the Cold War, probing it for psychic or electromagnetic anomalies. More chilling are the fringe narratives tying the spear to apocalyptic prophecies. Certain esoteric groups believe its reappearance will trigger end-times events, a notion popularized by mid-century occultists who saw it as a key to unlocking otherworldly forces. Even today, fringe historians point to strange synchronicities, like the fact that the spear was briefly displayed in Nuremberg, the same city where Nazi leaders were later tried. But perhaps the most haunting question isn't about the spear's authenticity, it's about why the curse persists in our collective imagination. Psychological anthropologists argue it reflects humanity's primal fear of hubris, the idea that unchecked ambition invites disaster. The spear's holders, from emperors to dictators, all reached too far, and their falls became morality tales. Yet the relic's physical form offers no answers. The Vienna lance is a modest artifact, its blade pitted with age, its golden sleeve a later addition. If it's a medieval copy, why do the stories cling to it so fiercely? Science offers a sobering counterpoint. Metallurgists note that the spear's composition, iron with traces of silver, matches Carolingian-era weapons, not Roman ones. The nail fragment inside, it's never been conclusively linked to the crucifixion. But here's the twist. Even if the spear is a later creation, its legends may have shaped history more than any actual supernatural force. Belief in its power drove kings to conquest, fueled Nazi delusions, and still draws treasure hunters to dusty archives. The real curse might not be in the relic itself, but in our irresistible urge to believe in objects that promise dominion over fate. Whether divine instrument or psychological mirror, the Spear of Destiny proves one thing: some legends don't just endure, they rewrite reality. Embedded in the eastern corner of the Kaaba in Mecca, the Black Stone is a relic that defies simple explanation. This dark, fragmented stone, roughly 12 inches in diameter and encased in a silver frame, has been kissed, touched, and revered by millions of Muslim pilgrims for over 14 centuries. But its origins stretch far beyond the advent of Islam, into a past shrouded in celestial mystery. According to Islamic tradition, the stone descended from paradise, once pure white but blackened by humanity's sins. Scientific analysis tells a different yet equally fascinating story. It's likely a meteorite, its pitted surface bearing the telltale marks of a fiery descent through Earth's atmosphere. The stone's pre-Islamic history is a tapestry of competing legends. Some scholars link it to the ancient cult of Hubal, a lunar deity worshipped in Mecca before the rise of Islam. Others suggest it was part of a broader meteorite cult in the region. Sacred stones were venerated across Arabia, believed to be fragments of the divine. When the Prophet Muhammad reclaimed the Kaaba for monotheism in 629, he preserved the Black Stone, integrating it into the Hajj pilgrimage. Pilgrims now seek to touch or kiss it during tawaf, the ritual circling of the Kaaba, emulating the Prophet's actions. But here's the twist: the stone sits just high enough that most must stretch or be lifted to reach it, turning the act into a physical struggle mirroring spiritual devotion. Non-Muslims are barred from entering Mecca, let alone approaching the Kaaba, a restriction that's fueled centuries of speculation. Medieval European travelers spun tales of the stone being magnetic or even a giant ruby, myths born from sheer curiosity. Modern researchers have only fragmentary data, as the stone's sanctity prohibits invasive testing. The few available studies, like a 1974 analysis using ultraviolet light, suggest its composition matches rare stony meteorites with traces of iron and nickel. Yet its true nature remains debated. Is it a single mass or multiple fragments cemented together? Even the silver casing hides more than it reveals, added after the stone was damaged during a medieval siege. What makes the Black Stone unique among sacred relics isn't just its celestial origins, it's the paradox it embodies. Scientifically, it's a rock from space. Theologically, it's a token of covenant between humanity and the divine. Its power lies not in what it is, but in what it represents, a bridge between earth and heaven, history and eternity. For believers, touching it is an act of connection. For scholars, it's an unsolved riddle. And for the wider world, it remains one of history's most enigmatic objects, hidden in plain sight. Hidden among the annals of alchemy and occult philosophy lies a relic not of gold or stone, but of words, the Emerald Tablet. This cryptic text, attributed to the mythical sage Hermes Trismegistus, is said to contain the secrets of the universe condensed into a single, enigmatic phrase: as above, so below. Its origins are as murky as its meaning, with legends claiming it was discovered in the tomb of Hermes himself, inscribed on a slab of emerald with a diamond stylus. Yet no physical artifact survives, only copies of the text, passed down through medieval Arabic and Latin manuscripts, each word crackling with untapped power. The tablet's influence stretches far beyond dusty libraries. Sir Isaac Newton, the father of modern physics, was obsessed with it, translating the text himself in pursuit of alchemical truths. His private notes reveal a mind wrestling with its paradoxes, seeing in its lines not just mystical babble, but coded laws of nature. This wasn't mere superstition. Newton believed the tablet held the key to primal forces, a bridge between the spiritual and the scientific. Other luminaries, from the Renaissance magus John Dee to the psychologist Carl Jung, were equally captivated, interpreting its words as everything from a guide to transmuting lead into gold to a roadmap of the human psyche. What makes the Emerald Tablet so enduring isn't just its poetic brevity, but its adaptability. To medieval alchemists, it described the philosopher's stone. To 19th-century occultists, it revealed hidden dimensions. Modern esoteric circles see it as a precursor to quantum physics, its famous maxim echoing the concept of entangled particles mirroring each other across space. Even its purported physical form sparks debate. Was it ever a literal emerald slab, or was that a metaphor for crystalline knowledge? Some theorists suggest it might have been part of the legendary Library of Alexandria, lost when the great repository burned. Others argue it was never a single object at all, but a living tradition passed orally until scribes captured fragments. The tablet's genius lies in its ambiguity. Every generation reinvents it, projecting their deepest questions onto its 12 lines. Whether divine revelation or ancient thought experiment, its legacy endures because it refuses to be solved, a relic not of matter, but of the eternal human quest to decode the cosmos. Among the most enigmatic relics of the ancient world, the Urim and Thummim stand out as objects of divine communication, tools so sacred, their very names translate to lights and perfections. Described in the Hebrew Bible as stones carried by the high priest in a breastplate, they weren't mere ornaments but instruments for seeking God's will. When leaders faced impossible decisions whether to go to war, where to settle, or who to appoint, these stones allegedly lit up or shifted to reveal answers. Yet their physical form remains a mystery. Some scholars suggest they were polished gems, perhaps diamonds or sapphires engraved with symbols. Others argue they were flat, like ancient lots cast like dice to yield yes or no responses. The Torah offers frustratingly few details, leaving us to piece together clues from scattered verses and rabbinic commentaries. What makes the Urim and Thummim so fascinating is their blend of the mystical and the practical. Unlike dramatic miracles like parting seas, their power lay in structured divination, a system of divine yes or no replies. The high priest would stand before the tabernacle, the stones embedded in his ornate breastplate, and pose a question. According to the Talmud, certain letters on the stones would illuminate, spelling out answers in a celestial code, yet this process wasn't foolproof. Later texts note the Urim and Thummim fell silent during times of spiritual decline, as if divinity itself withdrew the privilege of clear answers. By the era of the Second Temple, they'd become relics of a lost age, their function fading into legend. Their disappearance after the Babylonian destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BCE is one of history's quietest mysteries. Were they looted by Nebuchadnezzar's troops, melted down for their gold and gems, hidden away by priests in a secret tunnel beneath the Temple Mount? Or perhaps they weren't physical objects at all. Some Kabbalists propose they were manifestations of divine light, vanishing when the people no longer merited their guidance. Modern attempts to locate them have led nowhere, though that hasn't stopped treasure hunters from scouring everything from old Crusader maps to Dead Sea caves. The Urim and Thummim's legacy lingers precisely because they represent a universal longing. the desire for certainty in an uncertain world. In an age of algorithms and artificial intelligence, we still crave unambiguous answers, whether from stars, stones, or screens. Their story reminds us that even the most sacred tools are only as powerful as the faith and wisdom of those who wield them. While the Shroud of Turin captures global attention with its full-body image, the Sudarium of Oviedo tells a quieter, no less compelling story. This small, blood-stained linen cloth, housed in a Spanish cathedral since the 8th century, is believed by many to have wrapped the head of Jesus after his crucifixion. Unlike the shroud's enigmatic image, the Sudarium's evidence is visceral. Its stains form a grim map of pulmonary edema fluid, a medical marker of death by suffocation, consistent with crucifixion. The cloth's dark patches align eerily with the wounds visible on the shroud, particularly the puncture marks from the Crown of Thorns. But here's where the debate ignites. Scientists who have studied both relics note the blood types match, type AB, rare in Europe but common in the Middle East, and the weaving techniques suggest 1st century Judean origin. Yet skeptics point to gaps in the Sudarium's historical paper trail before its arrival in Spain, leaving room for doubt. Forensic analysis adds layers to the mystery. The bloodstains show a clear separation between fluid and clotted blood, indicating the cloth was placed on the face twice, first while the body was upright on the cross, then again after being laid horizontally. This matches the Gospel account of Joseph of Arimathea hastily covering Jesus' face before sunset, then returning after the Sabbath to prepare the body properly. Even the pollen trapped in the fibers tells a story, with traces from olive trees and Jerusalem area plants. But detractors argue these details could have been borrowed from biblical accounts by medieval forgers aiming to create a companion relic to the shroud. What makes the Sudarium uniquely persuasive is its unpretentiousness. Unlike the shroud's mysterious image, its stains are straightforward, gruesome even. There's no artistic flourish, no need to explain how the marks appeared. They're simply there, a brutal record of suffering. For believers, this rawness lends credibility. For scientists, it's a puzzle begging for empirical answers. Whether viewed as sacred artifact or ancient forensic evidence, the Sudarium forces us to confront the physical reality behind the Easter story, not as a symbol, but as a cloth that once clung to the face of a dying man. Of all the relics tied to Christ's suffering, few carry as much visceral power as the Crown of Thorns. Unlike gold-laden artifacts, this simple circlet of twisted branches speaks to the brutal humility of the crucifixion, a symbol of torment transformed into an object of reverence. Its journey from Jerusalem to Paris reads like a thriller, surviving sieges, fires, and revolutions, all while drawing millions of pilgrims desperate to glimpse the thorns that once drew blood. Historical records first place the crown in Jerusalem's Church of Zion by the 5th century, where it was displayed alongside other Passion relics. But how did it reach Europe? The answer lies with Baldwin II, the cash-strapped Latin emperor of Constantinople, who pawned it to Venetian merchants in 1238. Enter King Louis IX of France, who paid an astronomical sum, half the annual budget of his entire kingdom, to secure it. His solution, building the breathtaking Sainte-Chapelle, a gem-like chapel with walls of stained glass just to house it. The crown's arrival in Paris sparked near riots of devotion, with crowds so thick, Louis had to walk barefoot through the streets to avoid trampling his subjects. Centuries later, danger found the crown again. During the French Revolution, anti-monarchy mobs ransacked Notre Dame, where it had been moved, and tossed it into a pile of confiscated relics. Miraculously, a quick-thinking priest salvaged it, hiding it in his home until the chaos passed. Even the devastating fire of 2019, which engulfed Notre Dame's spire, left the relic unscathed, protected by firefighters who formed a human chain to rescue it along with other treasures. But is this the actual crown pressed onto Christ's head? Science offers intriguing clues. Botanists studying surviving thorns, fragments of which were gifted to churches across Europe, identify them as Ziziphus spina Christi, a shrub native to the Middle East with vicious backward curving spikes. Carbon dating places some thorns between the 1st and 4th centuries, leaving room for authenticity, though contamination over centuries of handling complicates results. The crown's current form, a twisted band without thorns, matches ancient Roman torture practices, where victims wore makeshift wreaths rather than the elaborate metal crowns depicted in medieval art. What makes the Crown of Thorns so compelling isn't just its disputed origins, but the raw humanity it represents. Unlike gilded relics, it wasn't crafted by human hands. It was a tool of humiliation, repurposed by faith into something sacred. For believers, its preservation is a miracle. For historians, a testament to how objects gain meaning through the stories we attach to them. Whether divine artifact or medieval facsimile, its power lies in the uncomfortable truth it forces us to confront, that sometimes the most sacred things emerge from the deepest suffering. The Veil of Veronica isn't just a relic, it's a story of compassion frozen in time. According to Christian tradition, as Jesus stumbled toward Calvary under the weight of the cross, a woman named Veronica pushed through the hostile crowd to offer a moment of mercy. She wiped the sweat and blood from his face with her veil, and in that act of kindness, something miraculous occurred. His features allegedly imprinted onto the cloth, leaving behind an acropoieton, an image not made by human hands. Unlike the Shroud of Turin's full-body impression, this portrait-like relic offered an intimate glimpse of Christ's suffering, his face etched with exhaustion and pain. But here's where history and faith diverge. The name Veronica itself is a clue, a blend of the Latin vera, true, and Greek icon, image, essentially meaning true image. Early church accounts don't name her, and some scholars argue she may be a composite figure, inspired by the countless unnamed women who showed kindness during the Passion. By the Middle Ages, however, her story had crystallized into legend, and the veil became one of Christianity's most sought-after treasures. Pilgrims flocked to Rome, where popes claimed to possess the original, displaying it from St. Peter's balcony on holy days. The faithful believed just glimpsing it could cure blindness or absolve sins, turning Veronica's act into a symbol of grace available to all. The Vatican's handling of the veil has only deepened its mystery. While they've never officially confirmed its existence, rumors persist that it's stored in a secret niche beneath the basilica, too fragile for public view. Critics point to the dozens of Veronica veils that appeared across medieval Europe, miraculous copies housed in churches from Spain to Poland. Many were likely devotional art, but a few, like the one in Manoppello, Italy, bear eerie similarities to the Shroud of Turin's facial features, despite being made of delicate sea silk fabric. Scientists studying the Manoppello image note its strange, almost holographic quality visible from both sides, with no brushstrokes or pigments. Why has the original never been conclusively found? Some historians suspect it was lost during the sack of Rome in 1527, when mercenaries looted the Vatican's relics. Others theorize it was deliberately hidden to protect it from Reformation-era skeptics. The veil's power lies in its paradox, a relic born not from grand miracles, but from a single, quiet act of empathy. Whether divine imprint or medieval icon, it endures because it speaks to something universal. The human impulse to reach out, even in the face of suffering, and the hope that such moments might leave traces beyond memory. Among the most unusual relics venerated in medieval Christianity, few provoke as much modern bewilderment as the Holy Prepuce, the supposed foreskin of the infant Jesus. At least 18 European churches once claimed to possess this sacred fragment, sparking theological debates, pilgrimages, and even a 16th-century pamphlet war over its authenticity. The veneration may seem jarring today, but in the context of medieval piety, it made perfect sense. If Christ's body ascended to heaven intact as doctrine taught, his circumcision at 8 days old, a Jewish ritual mandated by the covenant, offered the one conceivable physical relic from his childhood. What began as a theological curiosity became a cult object, with miracles attributed to these tiny fragments of flesh. The Prepuce's journey through history reads like a dark comedy of errors. Charlemagne allegedly gifted one to Pope Leo III, claiming it was brought to him by an angel. Another surfaced in Antwerp, said to have been stolen by a thief who was struck blind until he returned it. The most famous version, housed in the Italian village of Calcutta, became the center of an annual procession where villagers carried the relic through streets strewn with flowers. Witnesses reported it emitting a sweet fragrance or glowing with unearthly light phenomena that skeptics later attributed to clever use of oils and candle tricks. The absurdity peaked when rival churches argued over whose prepuce was genuine, with some theologians proposing Christ's foreskin had the miraculous ability to multiply like loaves and fishes. Science, unsurprisingly, has been less than kind to these claims. When a French abbey's prepuce was analyzed in the 1900s, it turned out to be a piece of dried fish skin. The Calcutta relic vanished mysteriously in 1983, possibly stolen by a collector of oddities, leaving behind empty reliquaries and unanswered questions. Modern Catholics tend to sidestep the subject. The Vatican quietly discouraged devotion to the prepuce in the 1960s, and Pope Innocent III had already declared centuries earlier that the relic couldn't possibly be authenticated. What lingers is the prepuce's window into medieval spirituality, where the boundary between reverence and obsession blurred. In an era that treasured bodily relics as conduits to the divine, even the most mundane fragment of a saint's anatomy could become a source of power. The prepuce's decline from veneration to embarrassment mirrors how our relationship with the sacred evolves. What one generation worships, the next often struggles to explain. The nails said to have pierced Christ's hands and feet during the crucifixion are among the most debated relics in Christian history. Unlike the Crown of Thorns or the Shroud, these unassuming iron spikes lack dramatic imagery, yet their symbolic weight is immense. Tradition claims that Helena, mother of Emperor Constantine, discovered them buried near the true cross in 4th century Jerusalem, but here's where the mystery thickens. While medieval churches boasted dozens of holy nails, scientific scrutiny reveals a tangled web of faith, forgery, and fascinating metallurgy. One of the most famous claimants sits in the Iron Crown of Lombardy, the very crown used to coronate Charlemagne. Embedded in its golden frame is a slender iron band, said to be forged from one of the crucifixion nails. The crown itself is a masterpiece of early medieval craftsmanship, but the nail's inclusion raises eyebrows. Metallurgical studies show the iron dates to the Roman era, consistent with the crucifixion timeline, but there's a catch: Roman nails were mass-produced for everything from construction to executions. Proving this specific spike pinned Christ to the cross is impossible. Yet the crown's legacy intertwines with European power dynamics. Rulers from Napoleon to Mussolini sought to wear it, believing the relic conferred divine sanction to their rule. Another contender rests in Rome's Basilica of the Holy Cross, where a nail is displayed beneath the altar. This one comes with a stranger backstory. 6th century accounts claim it was swallowed by a pious woman to hide it from looters, then miraculously recovered unharmed after passing through her digestive tract. While the tale strains credulity, the nail's composition intrigues scientists. X-ray fluorescence testing reveals its hand-forged iron with traces of gold, possibly from centuries of contact with reliquaries. Yet, like the Lombardy nail, its provenance is murky at best. Roman crucifixions used hundreds of nails. Even if these are authentic period artifacts, linking them to Golgotha relies wholly on tradition, not evidence. The real enigma lies in the nails' paradoxical nature. They're simultaneously ordinary and transcendent common tools transformed by belief into sacred objects. For every nail venerated in a cathedral, there are fragments scattered across Europe from Trier to Siena, each with its own miracle tales. Modern archaeology offers little help. Nails degrade over time, and the acidic soil of Jerusalem devours iron within centuries. Even if a first-century nail were found near crucifixion sites, verifying its connection to Christ would be impossible without inscriptions or contextual clues. What endures is the nail's grip on the imagination. They represent a collision of faith and history where the humblest objects become vessels for the divine. Whether viewed as holy relics or medieval curiosities, their power lies not in what they are, but in what they compel us to believe about sacrifice, suffering, and the traces even the most ordinary things can leave behind. Two rusted iron chains resting side by side in a golden reliquary beneath the altar of Rome's San Pietro in Vincoli. These are the fetters said to have bound St. Peter during his imprisonments under King Herod and Emperor Nero. What makes them remarkable isn't just their connection to the Prince of the Apostles, but the legend that they miraculously fused together when Pope Leo I compared them in the 5th century. One chain supposedly came from Jerusalem's Mamertine prison, where Peter was held before his angelic escape, and the other from Rome's notorious Tullianum, where he awaited martyrdom. According to tradition, when Leo placed the chains side by side, they knit together seamlessly, a divine sign that East and West, Jew and Gentile, were united under Peter's spiritual authority. The chains became a cornerstone of medieval Rome's sacred economy. Pilgrims flocked to them, believing even touching the metal could cure ailments or break demonic oppression. Prisoners sentenced to death were paraded past them, hoping for a last-minute miracle. The shackles' symbolic weight was immense. They represented not just Peter's suffering, but the paradoxical triumph of Christian faith. Bound in iron, the apostle had still walked free from Herod's prison. Chained again in Rome, he embraced his crucifixion upside down, turning his execution into a victory. This duality of physical restraint and spiritual liberation made the chains a potent metaphor for early Christians facing persecution. Miracles piled up around the relics like offerings. Gregory the Great recorded how a noblewoman's slave was healed of demonic possession after fragments of the chains were placed on her neck. Later, Byzantine empresses sent gold and jewels to adorn the reliquary, seeking Peter's intercession for their own imprisoned relatives. Even skeptics couldn't ignore the chain's psychological power. During the sack of Rome in 1527, when Lutheran mercenaries desecrated countless relics, they reportedly hesitated before these fetters, not out of reverence but fear that the apostles' curse might follow them home. Modern science offers a humbler perspective. Metallurgical analysis confirms the chains are Roman-era iron, but their exact provenance is untraceable. The fused appearance likely stems from centuries of pious repairs, medieval artisans soldering broken links with reverence, not deceit. Yet their impact on Christian art and politics is undeniable. Michelangelo's Moses, sculpted for the same church, gazes toward these chains as if toward a divine verdict. The papacy used them to bolster claims of Rome's primacy, arguing that Peter's bonds, like his bones, anchored the Church's authority in the eternal city. Whether viewed as sacred objects or anthropological artifacts, the chains endure because they embody a universal tension between the body's fragility and the spirit's refusal to be shackled. In an age of mass incarceration and political imprisonment, their legacy resonates strangely modern. They remind us that some bonds, no matter how heavy, can't contain the stories we tell about freedom. The image of the Virgin Mary imprinted on Juan Diego's humble cactus fiber tilma is more than just a religious icon. It's a scientific anomaly that has baffled researchers for centuries. According to tradition, in 1531, the indigenous peasant encountered the Virgin on Tepeyac Hill outside Mexico City, and when he unfurled his cloak before the skeptical bishop, her radiant image miraculously appeared on the rough fabric. But here's what stumps experts. The tilma, made from fragile agave fibers that typically decay within 20 to 60 years, shows no signs of deterioration after nearly 500. The vibrant pigments once thought to be painted have no visible brushstrokes or underdrawings, and microscopic analysis reveals the colors float inexplicably above the cloth surface, as if suspended in midair. Even more astonishing, the image changes hue slightly under different lighting, a phenomenon modern optics can't fully replicate. Then there are the eyes. In 1979, ophthalmologist Hosea Steternsman examined high-resolution photographs of the Virgin's pupils under magnification and made an eerie discovery. The reflections in her corneas appear to contain tiny human figures, arranged exactly as they would be in a living eye witnessing an event. The scene mirrors what an observer would see if standing before a real person, down to the distortions caused by the eye's curvature. Skeptics argue these details could be random pigment variations, but the precision is uncanny. The figures' positions even suggest depth, as if the image somehow captured a three-dimensional moment in time. Scientists have thrown every test at the tilma, from infrared spectroscopy to digital enhancement. In 1982, researchers bombarded it with laser scans expecting to detect paint layers, yet the light passed straight through the colors as if they weren't physically present. The fabric itself defies logic. Agave fibers should have yellowed and crumbled long ago, but the tilma remains startlingly intact, resisting humidity, candle soot, and even an 1895 nitric acid spill that should have dissolved it. Some theorists propose the image was created through some form of unknown energy transfer, while believers see divine intervention. What gives the tilma enduring power isn't just its inexplicable origins, it's the cultural earthquake it triggered. The image Mestizo Virgin, blending indigenous and Spanish features, became a unifying symbol during Mexico's turbulent colonial era. Her cloak's stars mirror the constellations as they appeared on the morning of her apparition, a detail illiterate Juan Diego couldn't have fabricated. Whether miracle or mystery, the tilma challenges our assumptions about art, science, and the boundaries of the possible. In a world where even the finest Renaissance paintings fade and crack, this humble cloak's defiance of time whispers of something beyond human understanding. Hidden within the gilded walls of Sri Lanka's Temple of the Sacred Tooth in Kandy rests a relic that has shaped empires, sparked wars, and drawn millions to its presence, a single molar said to belong to the Buddha himself. According to ancient texts, when the Buddha was cremated in 543 B.C.E., devotees rescued 4 teeth from the pyre, one of which was smuggled to Sri Lanka centuries later, concealed in the hair of a princess as she fled invading armies. Today, this sacred tooth isn't just an object of veneration, it's the beating heart of Sri Lankan identity, a symbol of divine authority so potent that whoever possesses it is believed to hold the moral right to rule. The tooth's political influence reads like a medieval epic. Sri Lankan kings built entire capitals around it, moving their courts wherever the relic was enshrined for fear of losing its legitimizing power. When Portuguese colonizers seized it in the 16th century, claiming to have burned it at sea, the backlash was so fierce that they secretly replaced it with a replica, a deception only uncovered centuries later. The British, wiser to its cultural weight, returned it after their conquest in 1815, recognizing that controlling the tooth meant controlling the people. Even today, the relic sits at the center of national ceremonies, its presence invoked during elections and crises as a reminder of unity and spiritual sovereignty. Rituals surrounding the tooth blend grandeur with intimacy. Every dawn and dusk, monks perform elaborate pujas, offering flowers and chanting as the golden casket housing the relic is unveiled for devotees. But here's the catch: no one actually sees the tooth itself. It's sealed inside 7 nested reliquaries, a design meant to mirror the layers of wisdom in Buddhist teachings. Pilgrims press their foreheads against the shrine's doors, praying not for a glimpse, but for proximity to its radiance. During the annual Azolla Perahara festival, the casket is paraded through Kandy on a lavishly decorated elephant, flanked by torchbearers and dancers, a spectacle that transforms the city into a living mandala of light and devotion. Science has cautiously tiptoed around the relic's authenticity. Carbon dating is impossible without disturbing the sacred caskets, and temple authorities forbid any invasive testing. Yet the tooth's impact transcends empirical proof. In 2019, when Sri Lanka was rocked by devastating Easter bombings, the temple became a haven for interfaith healing, its gates open to Christians and Muslims alike. The tooth's power, it seems, isn't just in its origins, but in its ability to anchor a nation's hope. Whether viewed as a physical link to the Buddha or a potent symbol of resilience, its legacy endures not encased in gold, but woven into the soul of a people. At the heart of Naples' chaotic streets, inside the shadowed vaults of the Cathedral of Santa Maria Assunta, something extraordinary happens 3 times a year. A darkened, centuries-old vial of dried blood suddenly liquefies, defying every law of chemistry. This is the blood of San Gennaro, the city's beloved 4th-century martyr, and its mysterious behavior has been documented since 1389. Locals believe the miracle signals protection. When the blood fails to liquefy, disasters follow. In 1527, a no-show preceded a plague outbreak. In 1980, delayed liquefaction coincided with a catastrophic earthquake. Even the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 1631 was blamed on the saint's withheld blessing. Scientists have tried for decades to explain it. Some suggest the vial contains a thixotropic gel that liquefies under agitation during ceremonies, but spectrographic analysis confirms the presence of hemoglobin, real blood. Others propose an ancient alchemical trick, yet no one has replicated the phenomenon under controlled conditions. Skeptics point to the Church's theatrical handling of the relic, the way priests vigorously shake the vial during prayers, or how it's kept near a silver bust containing the saint's skull, as if proximity to bone matters. Conspiracy theorists whisper about hidden heat sources or sleight of hand, but here's what stumps even the most hardened critics: the liquefaction isn't consistent. Sometimes it happens instantly during the May and September festivals. Other years it takes days of fervent prayer. In 2015, Pope Francis witnessed it liquefy partially, then stop, a phenomenon never before recorded. The blood's color shifts too, from deep burgundy to bright crimson, as if alive. For Neapolitans, the miracle isn't up for debate. The blood's behavior is woven into their cultural DNA, a covenant between the saint and the city he protects. During World War II, when bombs rained on Naples, locals carried the relic through rubble-strewn streets, crediting its liquefaction with sparing the cathedral from destruction. Today, the ritual draws thousands, from devout grandmothers to curious scientists, all craning to see the archbishop lift the vial. When the blood flows, cheers erupt like a soccer goal. When it stalls, a collective tension grips the piazza. This isn't just religion, it's a high-stakes drama where faith and physics collide, and the home team's survival seems to hang in the balance. What makes the blood's enigma so compelling is its refusal to fit neatly into either miracles or fraud. The Catholic Church, typically cautious with supernatural claims, endorses it as a prodigy rather than a formal miracle, leaving room for doubt. Meanwhile, researchers from Rome's La Sapienza University recently discovered nano-sized iron particles in the blood, common in hemoglobin, but arranged in patterns unlike any natural sample. Whether divine signal or medieval marvel, the blood's power lies in its stubborn ambiguity. It challenges believers and skeptics alike to sit with the uncomfortable truth that some mysteries resist both laboratories and liturgy, and that sometimes faith thrives most in the spaces science can't illuminate. The Manoppello Veil hangs in a quiet Italian abbey, its delicate fabric shimmering like a mirage, a portrait of Christ so hauntingly lifelike it seems to breathe. Unlike the Shroud of Turin's shadowy imprint, this image is vibrant, almost translucent, with eyes that follow you across the room. Woven from rare byssus, a sea silk so fine it was once called the cloth of kings, the veil defies explanation. Byssus can't hold pigment, yet here a face appears without dye or brushstrokes, as if woven from light itself. Tradition claims it's the Veronica's veil, wiped across Jesus' face on the road to Calvary, but science and faith clash fiercely over its origins. When researchers examined the Manoppello image under microscopes, they found no traces of paint or human artistry. The colors aren't applied to the fibers but seem embedded within them, changing hue depending on the angle of light, a phenomenon reminiscent of modern holograms. Even more baffling, the face aligns precisely with the Shroud of Turin's features when superimposed, down to the wound marks and flowing hair, yet the two relics couldn't be more different in style. The Shroud's image is a muted, ghostly negative. Manoppello's is vivid, almost hyper-real. How could two achropoietin images not made by hands from the same moment look so distinct? Some scholars propose the veil was an early Christian devotional object, its technique lost to time. Others whisper of divine phototransfer, a burst of resurrection energy imprinting Christ's likeness onto the cloth. Pope Benedict XVI's pilgrimage to Manoppello in 2006 added fuel to the debate. His quiet veneration, kneeling before the veil in prayer, wasn't just personal devotion, it signaled tacit approval from the Vatican. Historians noted the timing. Benedict was deeply invested in reconciling faith with reason, and the veil's enigma offered a bridge. Unlike the Shroud's contested radiocarbon dating, byssus can't be carbon dated accurately, leaving the veil's age open to interpretation. For Benedict, it may have represented a tangible connection to Christ untarnished by scientific controversy, a living icon immune to skepticism. Skeptics counter that the veil first appeared in the 16th century when European churches were competing for relics. The face, they argue, matches Renaissance artistic conventions, the symmetrical features, the parted lips suggesting an elaborate devotional aid. Yet even critics stumble over the byssus puzzle. Replicating the image on sea silk has proven impossible. Modern artists using the same material produce flat, lifeless results. The veil's depth and dimensionality seem to emerge from within the fabric, not atop it. Perhaps the most compelling testimony comes from visitors. Pilgrims describe an uncanny intimacy with the image eyes that convey sorrow and knowingness simultaneously. A gaze that feels personal rather than static. In this way, the Manoppello Veil transcends forensic debates. It's less about proving authenticity and more about provoking encounter. Whether divine self-portrait or masterwork of forgotten artistry, it challenges viewers to confront not just the face of Christ, but the mystery of how a piece of cloth can feel so alive. Standing nearly 24 feet tall in the heart of Delhi's Qutub complex, the iron pillar defies time with eerie precision. Forged in the 4th century during the reign of Emperor Chandragupta II, this 6-ton behemoth hasn't rusted in over 1,600 years, a feat that leaves modern metallurgists scratching their heads. Its surface, smooth and dark as polished charcoal, bears a Sanskrit inscription celebrating military victories, but the pillar's real triumph is its silent rebellion against decay. While steel structures today succumb to corrosion within decades, this ancient artifact mocks the very laws of chemistry. The secret lies in its composition. Modern X-ray fluorescence tests reveal the pillar is crafted from astonishingly pure wrought iron 98%, with traces of phosphorus and no sulfur. This unusual mix creates a passive protective film, a microscopic shield that forms when phosphorus reacts with oxygen and iron. But here's the catch: achieving this balance consistently would challenge even today's blast furnaces. Ancient Indian smiths, working with clay crucibles and charcoal bellows, somehow perfected a process that modern industry struggles to replicate. Some researchers suggest they used high phosphorus iron ore from Maharashtra, combined with a unique forging technique that distributed the phosphorus evenly, an accidental alchemy that turned ordinary metal into something timeless. Legends cling to the pillar like patina. Locals believe embracing it while standing with your back to it grants a wish, a tradition that's left the lower section buffed to a shine by countless hands. More intriguing are the accounts from Mughal chroniclers, who wrote that the pillar was originally crowned with a massive iron lotus that rang like a bell when struck. That lotus is long lost, but the stories hint at a deeper mastery of metallurgy, perhaps even acoustic engineering, that's since vanished from living memory. Scientists have proposed theories ranging from Delhi's dry climate, an insufficient explanation given monsoons, to the pillar's massive thermal mass regulating temperature fluctuations. But none fully account for its flawless preservation. Recent nanoscale studies uncovered a nanocrystalline structure in the iron's surface layer, a self-repairing matrix that resists pitting corrosion. This discovery has sparked interest in aerospace engineering, where similar materials could revolutionize spacecraft shielding. Yet the ancients left no blueprints. Their knowledge survives only in the pillar's mute endurance. What makes the iron pillar more than a metallurgical oddity is its cultural resilience. It survived invasions, earthquakes, and the British colonial engineers who considered melting it down for scrap. Today, it stands as both a monument and a cipher, a testament to the Gupta Empire's forgotten sciences. Whether viewed as divine craftsmanship or a happy accident of ancient smelting, its silent defiance whispers a tantalizing question. How much more did they know, and why did that knowledge vanish into the rust-filled centuries? Beneath the azure waters off the coast of a tiny Greek island, sponge divers stumbled upon a corroded lump of bronze in 1901, where they just pulled humanity's understanding of ancient technology into uncharted waters. The Antikythera mechanism, as it came to be known, wasn't just another artifact from a 2,000-year-old shipwreck. When its encrusted fragments were painstakingly cleaned and examined, researchers uncovered a labyrinth of interlocking gears, precisely calibrated dials, and inscriptions so advanced that historians initially dismissed it as a medieval clock misplaced in the wreck. But this was no timekeeping device. It was a celestial calculator, an intricate bronze machine capable of predicting solar eclipses, tracking Olympic cycles, and mapping the erratic dance of planets across the sky, a feat of engineering that wouldn't be matched until the rise of European clockwork a millennium and a half later. The mechanism's complexity is staggering even by modern standards. High-resolution X-ray tomography revealed at least 37 meshing gears, some with teeth cut to tolerances of a fraction of a millimeter. One gear, representing the moon's motion, used a pin and slot mechanism to account for lunar irregularities, an innovation previously thought to have been invented in the 14th century. The front face boasted concentric rings marking the Egyptian calendar, the zodiac, and the positions of the 5 known planets, while the back housed spiral dials predicting eclipses down to the hour, complete with inscriptions warning of ominous celestial alignments. This wasn't just a tool, it was a philosopher's stone of bronze, compressing the cosmos into a handheld device. What makes the Antikythera mechanism so unsettling is the gap it exposes in our historical narrative. Classical texts from Cicero and Plutarch hint at such devices. Archimedes reportedly built celestial spheres, but no other examples survive. The knowledge required to create it, from Babylonian astronomy to Greek gear theory, implies an entire lineage of lost technologies. Scholars now believe it originated in Rhodes, home to famed astronomers like Hipparchus, whose theories on planetary motion are mirrored in the mechanism's calculations. Yet nothing else from this supposed golden age of mechanics has surfaced. Did Roman looters dismantle other devices for their bronze, or was this a lone masterpiece, its secrets dying with its creator? Modern attempts to reconstruct the mechanism have only deepened the mystery. Engineers using period-appropriate tools found that replicating its precision required near-impossible craftsmanship, suggesting specialized workshops with techniques we've yet to rediscover. Even more haunting are the gaps in its surviving fragments, missing gears that may have modeled the movements of Mercury and Venus, hinting at even greater sophistication. Some theorists speculate it could calculate the dates of future Olympic Games or simulate celestial events retrospectively, turning it into both a scientific instrument and a theatrical display of cosmic harmony. The Antikythera mechanism forces us to confront a humbling truth. Ancient civilizations may have reached intellectual peaks we've yet to fully map. Its existence whispers of libraries burned, workshops razed, and lineages of knowledge severed by time's erosion. Why did such brilliance vanish for 1,500 years? Perhaps the answer lies not in the mechanism's gears, but in the fragility of human progress, a reminder that even the most advanced civilizations are just one catastrophe away from becoming mysteries for future divers to uncover. Tucked away in Yale University's Voynich Library lies a book that has defied comprehension for over 6 centuries, the Voynich manuscript. This 240-page enigma, penned in an unknown script and adorned with surreal illustrations of unidentifiable plants, celestial charts, and naked women bathing in green liquid, is arguably the most stubborn puzzle in the history of cryptography. Carbon dated to the early 15th century, its vellum pages whisper secrets in a language that not even supercomputers or wartime codebreakers have cracked. What makes the manuscript so maddening isn't just its indecipherable text, it's the creeping suspicion that every bizarre diagram, every looping character, is almost familiar, as if the answer lies just beyond the edge of understanding. Theories about its origins range from plausible to fantastical. Some scholars argue it's a lost herbal manual, its strange flora representing extinct species or alchemical metaphors. Others see it as an elaborate hoax, a Renaissance-era con artist scheme to sell a magic book to some gullible noble. But the manuscript's internal structure defies forgery. Statistical analysis reveals patterns consistent with a real language. Word lengths follow natural linguistic distributions, and certain symbols repeat in ways that suggest grammar. Even the illustrations hold layers of intent. Zodiac pages feature constellations adjusted for precession, a detail only an astronomer would know, while the biological section's intricate piping seems to mirror medieval concepts of bodily humors. This isn't random doodling, it's a system waiting for its Rosetta Stone. Codebreakers have thrown everything at the Voynich, from medieval cipher techniques to artificial intelligence. World War II cryptographers, fresh from cracking Nazi codes, turned their skills to the manuscript and failed. In 2018, a Canadian team claimed their AI identified Hebrew as the underlying language, but their proposed translations read like gibberish. The most tantalizing clue came in 2019, when a German scholar noticed that one illustration of a castle matched the architecture of northern Italy's Trentino region, hinting at a possible author. 15th century Jewish physician and cryptographer Wilfrid Voynich, who rediscovered the book in 1912, merely gave it his name, he didn't create it. Then there are the wilder interpretations. UFO enthusiasts claim the manuscript's alien plants prove extraterrestrial contact, while esotericists believe it's a visual guide to psychedelic journeys or astral projection. Even its material resists explanation. The ink shows traces of compounds uncommon in medieval Europe, and the vellum lacks the usual animal DNA markers, leaving its source a mystery. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between genius and madness, a personal cipher book by an eccentric polymath, or a collaborative project by a secretive guild. What gives the Voynich its enduring fascination is the mirror it holds up to our own limits. In an age where Google can translate languages in milliseconds, here's a book that humbles the brightest minds. It taunts us with the possibility that some knowledge, whether sacred or scientific, might be forever just out of reach, locked behind a door for which we've yet to find the key. Deep in the arid plains of southern Peru, where the ancient Nazca lines stretch across the desert like a giant sketchbook, a discovery emerged that would ignite one of the most heated debates in modern archaeology, the so-called Nazca mummies. These bizarre, elongated figures with their three-fingered hands, elongated skulls, and strangely jointed limbs were first presented to the world in 2017 by a group of researchers claiming they might be extraterrestrial hybrids or an unknown species. The images went viral instantly, sparking equal parts fascination and outrage. Here were tiny, desiccated bodies, some no larger than a human toddler, their features defying every known biological framework. But were they genuine relics of an unknown past, or simply an elaborate fabrication designed to cash in on humanity's endless hunger for the unexplained? Initial scientific examinations only deepened the mystery. X-rays and CT scans revealed internal structures resembling bones with articulated spines and rib cages, yet the proportions were all wrong: elongated torsos, oversized eye sockets, and those infamous three-digit hands. Proponents of the mummy's authenticity pointed to DNA analysis showing unidentifiable genetic material, with some samples allegedly containing sequences that didn't match any known Earth species. Skeptics, however, were quick to counter. Forensic experts noted oddities like the hands, which appeared to be constructed from a mix of human and animal bones, possibly from llamas or birds, held together with adhesives. One particularly damning study by a team of Peruvian biologists concluded that at least one specimen was a composite, a patchwork of human remains cleverly altered to create an otherworldly illusion. The controversy took a darker turn when investigations revealed that some of the mummies had been looted from underground tombs by grave robbers before being sold to collectors. This raised serious ethical questions. Were researchers unknowingly working with stolen cultural artifacts, potentially distorting history in their pursuit of the sensational? Mainstream archaeologists recoiled, dismissing the mummies as a modern-day Piltdown-Man hoax. Yet the defenders held firm, arguing that institutional science was too quick to dismiss what it couldn't immediately categorize. Some indigenous voices from the region offered another perspective, suggesting the figures might be misunderstood representations of ancestral myths, not aliens at all, but sacred effigies of the star people described in Andean oral traditions. What makes the Nazca mummies so compelling isn't just the question of their authenticity, it's what they reveal about our own relationship with the unknown. In an era where AI can fabricate convincing images and deepfakes blur reality, these tiny, enigmatic figures force us to confront how easily evidence can be manipulated and how desperately we want to believe. Whether they're ancient hoaxes, misidentified human mutations, or something even stranger, their greatest impact might be the mirror they hold up to science itself, exposing the cracks between skepticism and curiosity, between dogma and discovery. The Nazca mummies don't just challenge archaeology, they challenge us to ask how we decide what's real. In a quiet corner of Iraq's National Museum sits an unassuming clay jar, its neck sealed with asphalt and a rusted iron rod protruding from the top. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an ancient storage vessel, but this 2,000-year-old artifact, known as the Baghdad Battery, has sparked one of archaeology's most electrifying debates. Found in 1936 during excavations near Qujat Rabu, the jar contains a copper cylinder housing that iron rod, and traces of acidic residue cling to its interior. When reconstructed, the setup bears an uncanny resemblance to a galvanic cell capable of producing a small electric current. The implications are staggering. Could the Parthians, who ruled Mesopotamia around 200 BCE, have harnessed electricity centuries before Volta's famous battery in 1800? Proponents of the battery theory point to its potential use in electroplating, Ancient artifacts from the region, like gilded silver items from Babylon, show gold layers so thin and even that chemical dipping seems unlikely. A weak electrical current, however, could explain the precision. Experiments by German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig, who first proposed the battery hypothesis in 1938, demonstrated that filling the jar with vinegar or grape juice, both readily available in antiquity, generated around 1 volt of electricity. That's enough to electroplate small objects over time, hinting at a lost industrial technique. Even more intriguing are accounts from Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder describing gold purification methods that might align with electroplating, though he never mentions the technology outright. Yet skeptics counter with equal vigor. The asphalt seal, they argue, would have insulated any current rather than conducting it, making the design inefficient for electricity generation. Alternative theories suggest the jars held sacred scrolls, their metal components serving as protective casings rather than electrodes. Others propose they were simple storage vessels for perishable goods, with the acidic residue stemming from fermented contents like wine or oil. The absence of wires, electrodes, or any other electrical artifacts in the archaeological record further undermines the battery claim. If this was a widespread technology, why haven't more examples or written records survived? The ritual angle adds another layer of mystery. Some scholars speculate the jars could have been used in religious contexts, their mild electric charge producing tingling sensations interpreted as divine contact. Ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian texts describe temple rituals involving divine light or mysterious shining rods, though these descriptions are too vague to confirm any link. Modern recreations show that connecting multiple Baghdad Battery replicas in series can produce enough voltage to create a perceptible shock, potentially a powerful tool for priests seeking to awe their followers. What makes the Baghdad Battery so captivating isn't just the question of its function, but what it reveals about the fluid boundary between innovation and coincidence. Even if it wasn't a true battery, its design proves ancient craftsmen were tinkering with materials in ways that accidentally brushed against scientific principles they couldn't yet name. Whether sacred object, industrial tool, or mere container, this humble jar forces us to reconsider the narrative of technological progress and wonder how many other accidents of history might have been glimpses of forgotten brilliance. High atop the Andes, the fortress of Saksaywaman looms over Cusco like a stone puzzle left behind by giants. Its walls, composed of massive limestone blocks weighing up to 200 tons, fit together with a precision that defies the tools and technology attributed to the Inca civilization. The most bewildering feature, the seams between these megaliths are so exact that even after 500 years of earthquakes and erosion, you can't slide a razor blade, let alone a piece of paper, between them. This isn't just mortarless construction, it's a stone mosaic where irregular polygons lock together in 3 dimensions, their curves and angles aligning perfectly like pieces of an impossible jigsaw. How did a culture without the wheel, iron tools, or written blueprints achieve such geometric perfection? Archaeologists have long credited the Inca with Saksaywaman's construction, dating it to the 15th century. But the sheer scale and precision of the lower tiers, far surpassing later Inca additions, hint at something older. Local Quechua legends speak of the site being built by the gods themselves or by a race of giants before the Inca. Some scholars point to the mysterious Viracocha, a white-bearded deity figure said to have taught advanced masonry techniques. The stones themselves deepen the enigma. Their surfaces show no chisel marks, only smooth, undulating curves that suggest some form of softening or molding techniques modern engineers can't replicate without industrial tools. Experiments using wooden sledges and stone hammers, the supposed Inca methods, fail to explain the microscopic precision of the joints. Theories about lost technologies abound. One provocative idea involves the use of plant acids. Certain Andean herbs like the jocha plant can dissolve limestone when brewed into potent solutions. Could ancient builders have softened the stones temporarily, shaping them like clay before they rehardened? Another hypothesis suggests sonic levitation, citing oral traditions of workers singing rocks into place. While fringe, this idea gains traction when you consider the site's acoustics. Whispered words echo strangely between the walls, and certain corners amplify sound waves in ways modern architects struggle to explain. Then there's the astronomical alignment. The zigzagging walls mirror the toothed shape of the Andean lightning god Ilapa, while key sightlines track solstices with pinpoint accuracy, features demanding mathematical knowledge seemingly absent from Inca records. Mainstream archaeology offers more grounded explanations, emphasizing the Incas' mastery of trial and error. They propose that workers shaped the stones by abrasion, grinding them together with sand and water over months. But this doesn't account for the logistical nightmare of maneuvering 100-ton blocks up steep terrain without pulleys or draft animals. Recent laser scans reveal even deeper complexities. The blocks interlock not just on visible faces, but with hidden knobs and sockets inside the walls, a feature seen only in later earthquake-resistant architecture. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how Saksaywaman was built, but why. Unlike European fortresses, its walls lack strategic loopholes or ramparts. Some sections seem designed to channel water or amplify rituals. The Spanish, who dismantled parts of the complex to build colonial Cusco, reported finding tunnels filled with strange artifacts, all since lost. Today, the site hums with an energy that eludes measurement. Visitors describe disorientation near certain walls, as if the stones disrupt spatial perception. Whether masterpiece of forgotten engineering or relic of a misunderstood past, Saksaywaman stands as a testament to the limits of our historical narratives. Its stones whisper that the past might hold knowledge we've yet to rediscover, or perhaps never truly understood in the first place. Deep in the crypts of Egypt's Dendera temple complex, a series of enigmatic carvings spiral across the walls, images so startlingly modern that they've ignited feverish debate for decades. Etched into the sandstone around 50 B.C.E., these reliefs show what appear to be massive light bulbs, their elongated glass bodies tapering into snake-like filaments, capped by lotus flower sockets and supported by towering jade pillars. To proponents of fringe theories, this is smoking gun evidence that the ancient Egyptians harnessed electricity, their temple walls plastered with blueprints for advanced technology. But to mainstream archaeologists, the so-called Dendera Light is nothing more than a religious symbol misinterpreted, stripped of its sacred context, and thrust into the spotlight by our own modern biases. Let's unravel the bulb hypothesis first. The carvings depict a serpent wriggling inside a teardrop-shaped vessel, connected to what looks like a cable leading to a box gripped by a priest-like figure. Ancient astronaut theorists argue this mirrors a Crookes tube, an early electrical device that glows when charged. They cite the absence of soot in certain temple passages as proof these bulbs illuminated sacred spaces without fire. Some even point to the Baghdad Battery, another contested artifact, as a potential power source, but here's where the theory frays. The symbols surrounding the bulb are textbook Egyptian iconography. The snake represents the fertility god Harsomptus, the jade pillar symbolizes stability, and the entire scene orbits around the creation myth of the sun rising from a primordial lotus. Contextually, it's a spiritual allegory, not an engineering schematic. Archaeologists counter with a far more celestial explanation. The carvings adorn a chamber dedicated to Hathor, goddess of the sky, and likely depict the nightly rebirth of the sun god Ra. The filament serpent is Nehebkau, a deity linked to cyclical renewal, while the socket resembles the Henu bark, a ritual vessel carrying the sun through the underworld. Even the cables match depictions of lotus stems, ubiquitous in Egyptian art as symbols of resurrection. As for the soot-free corridors, they were likely sealed against drafts, preserving their cleanliness, not lit by phantom light bulbs. Yet the debate refuses to dim. Modern experiments show that replicating the Dendera carvings as functional lamps isn't entirely far-fetched. When filled with argon gas and electrified, the designs produce an eerie glow, suggesting they could work as rudimentary lighting. But could doesn't equal did. No physical bulbs or wiring have ever been found in Egypt, and the leap from symbolic art to applied technology requires ignoring reams of cultural evidence. What makes the Dendera Light so captivating isn't the binary of right or wrong, it's what it reveals about how we project our world onto the past. In an age of electricity, we see bulbs. To the ancients, these were divine metaphors. The carvings endure as a Rorschach test, showing either forgotten science or the timeless human urge to find patterns in the sacred. Perhaps the truth lies between, a testament not to Egyptian technology, but to their genius for encoding cosmic truths in stone. After all, isn't that its own kind of illumination? Rising like a modern-day Stonehenge from the red clay of rural Georgia, the Guidestones stood as one of the most cryptic relics of the 20th century, a cluster of towering granite slabs etched with 10 commandments for a post-apocalyptic world. Erected under a veil of secrecy in 1980, the monument bore instructions in 8 languages from English to Swahili, urging humanity to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature and guide reproduction wisely. Its creators identified themselves only as a small group of Americans who seek the age of reason, working through intermediaries and paying for the project with untraceable cash. Local stonemasons recalled receiving blueprints from a man calling himself Robert Christian, likely a pseudonym, who claimed to represent a secretive organization planning for civilization's collapse. The precision was chilling. The slabs aligned with celestial events, their center pillar acting as a gnomon to mark the solstices and equinoxes, while a hidden time capsule beneath them, still unopened, bore a cryptic plaque. Let these be guidestones to an age of reason. Then came the explosions. In the pre-dawn hours of July 6, 2022, security cameras captured a flash of light as dynamite reduced one pillar to rubble. By sunrise, authorities had dismantled the rest, citing safety concerns. The demolition ignited a firestorm of speculation. Conspiracy theorists saw the hand of shadowy elites, either covering their tracks or silencing a warning they'd planted decades earlier. Evangelical groups, long suspicious of the Guidestones' eco-Malthusian messages, celebrated their destruction as a victory over New World Order propaganda. Yet the truth was murkier. Investigators found no fingerprints, metaphorical or literal, linking the bombing to any group. Even the original builders remained silent, their 1980 newsletter promising future revelations now lost to time. What made the Guidestones so unsettling wasn't just their message, it was their ambiguity. Were they a blueprint for survival or a dystopian fantasy? The inscriptions call for a global population capped at 500 million, a 93% reduction from today's numbers, echoed extreme eco-fascist rhetoric. Yet other commandments like prize truth, beauty, love, read like benign humanist ideals. This duality attracted pilgrims ranging from doomsday preppers to ufologists, each interpreting the stones through their own apocalyptic lens. The monument's remote location only amplified its mystique. Positioned in Elbert County, a region dotted with nuclear fallout shelters from the Cold War, the site seemed chosen for its symbolism as much as its geology. Scientists who studied the Guidestones noted eerie parallels to other message for the future projects. The Rosetta Stone-like multilingual carvings mirrored the Voyager Golden Record, launched just 3 years earlier. The celestial alignments recalled Neolithic monuments like Newgrange, designed to outlast their builders. Even the granite itself told a story, quarried from Pyramid Blue, the same stone used for the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, as if bridging utopian dreams and grim warnings. Forensic geologists confirmed the slabs could endure 10,000 years, suggesting the creators genuinely intended their words to outlast empires. The Guidestones' legacy now exists in fragments, literally. Pieces of the original monument sit in storage, while replicas of its inscriptions circulate online, stripped of their physical presence but not their power to provoke. With a time capsule still buried and the architect's identities unknown, the stone's true purpose may remain as enigmatic as the shadowy figures who commissioned them. Whether viewed as prophecy, hoax, or ideological Rorschach test, their destruction didn't erase their questions, only ensured they'd echo louder in the void they left behind. From the Ark of the Covenant's earth-shaking power to the Antikythera mechanism's celestial calculations, these 25 relics remind us that history isn't just a record of what we know. It's a testament to all we've yet to understand. Each artifact we've explored, whether etched with divine faces, forged from impossible metals, or whispering in untranslatable scripts, stands at the crossroads of faith and science, challenging us to reconsider the boundaries of human ingenuity. Some, like the Shroud of Turin or the Holy Grail, draw pilgrims and researchers alike, their mysteries magnified by centuries of devotion. Others, like the Voynich manuscript or the Baghdad Battery, taunt us with puzzles that resist even modern tools. And then there are those like the Georgia Guidestones, whose very destruction deepened their enigma, proving that relics don't need to be ancient to spark endless debate. What unites them all is their power to ignite curiosity. The iron pillar of Delhi defies corrosion with metallurgy we can't replicate, while the Nazca mummies force us to ask how far we'll stretch our definitions of the possible. The Spear of Destiny's alleged curses and the miraculous Blood of San Gennaro blur the line between legend and observable phenomenon. Even the relics that science has debunked, like the Holy Prepuce, reveal something profound about the human need to touch the transcendent, to hold fragments of stories bigger than ourselves. These objects aren't just artifacts, they're mirrors. They reflect our hunger for connection, to the divine, to lost civilizations, to answers that hover just beyond our grasp. They remind us that history isn't a closed book but a living conversation, one where new technologies like AI imaging or particle physics might one day rewrite the narratives we take for granted. The Dendera Light carvings might not be ancient light bulbs, but they still illuminate how differently we see the past through modern eyes. Saksaywaman's seamless stones may not prove lost technologies, but they humble us with the sheer scale of what ancient builders achieved without them. So what do you think? Are these relics proof of forgotten knowledge, divine intervention, or simply the human talent for finding patterns in the chaos of time? Drop your wildest theories in the comments. We're all detectives in this grand, unsolved mystery. And if you're craving more enigmas, from vanished civilizations to cryptic codes, hit that subscribe button. The past isn't done surprising us yet, and the next revelation might be just one excavation or one video away. Until then, keep questioning, keep wondering, and never stop looking for the threads that connect our world to the whispers of the unknown.